And you mustn't think bad thoughts about me either, or I'll do the same thing to you.
How do you convince somebody something's valuable and they shouldn't throw it in the garbage? If they have a valuable collector's item, baseball card or comic or magazine, and they're about to throw it in the garbage, you can say, hey, you can sell that. It's worth money. You can sell it and make a lot of money. It's easy to show them the value. But what about individual rights and liberty? What if they are throwing away their right to free speech? How do you convince them that that is something valuable that they shouldn't just be throwing in the garbage? So why not? Why not have a government that tells us what to say and how to say it? What is wrong with that? Now, for me, free speech is always connected with me, and I think that's because innately I have disliked arrogance. I do not like arrogant people. And what is more arrogant than somebody who thinks they can dictate what another human being can say or not say? That is grossly arrogant. And another part is I am an outspoken atheist in the United States of America. There are countries where people who've been arrested for saying there is no God. In Bangladesh, there were outspoken atheists that were butchered. They were murdered. So I understand my rights as a United States citizen. I have rights that people in other parts of the country don't have. And I guess that gives me more of a appreciation for those rights. But this is something I've studied deeply. And what I've seen with censorship, it always leads to hypocrisy and it leads to corruption. It leads to hypocrisy because you'll never see the laws evenly enforced. It'll always be based on politics, where people on one side of the political aisle say something, they get censored, they get fined, they get arrested. But when people on the other side say the same thing, nothing happens. An example of that is something that actually didn't happen. I'm not going to cite an example from Germany or the UK. In the United States of America, somebody actually was convicted and spent jail time for a meme telling Democrats that they can text in their vote. In other words, it was election humor that's been common for decades. Republicans telling Democrats, hey, don't forget, Republicans vote on Tuesday, Democrats vote on Wednesday, and of course, Democrats doing the opposite. Or the latest thing, don't waste your time in the poll lines. Go ahead and text in your vote. So somebody, because of a meme, was actually fined, held in court, convicted, and had to serve prison time for election interference. Now we know for a fact that people on the left did the same thing. We have 100% proof. We have the memes. And we have the post where they shared the same exact meme going the other direction. Nothing happened to them. So you have hypocrisy, and then you have corruption. Of course, we know what happened with the Hunter Biden laptop story and the censorship to try to sway an election. It was election interference before the election even happened. The intent to sway an election by censoring information, corruption. So we know that is always the result of the censorship, hypocrisy, and corruption. Now, what happened in the United States of America? Because freedom of speech was never controversial. Everybody promoted and defended freedom of speech. So what happened? Well, we found out that a lot of people were just defending freedom of speech because it was part of our culture. They were just defending it because that's what everyone else was doing. But they really didn't understand the value of freedom of speech, because once elitists got hold of the media and they started twisting free speech and they started telling people free speech was bad, you saw an immediate and rapid shift in the attitudes of free speech. And so many people just now open to censorship, now open to government control. And we're even at the point where CBS, a major network, through 60 Minutes, one of the most well-known so-called news programs, is going to try to tell you that free speech in the United States of America is bad. But don't worry, there's a solution.
If you've ever dared to read the comments on a social media post, you might start to wonder if civilized discourse is just a myth. Aggressive threats, lies, and harassment have unfortunately become the norm online, where anonymity has emboldened some users to push the limits of civility.
So right off the bat, we start with a false premise. The idea that in the United States of America, on the internet, it's nothing but hate and people are just afraid to post anything because they're going to get attacked and they're going to get all this hate. That is not true. The vast majority of comments on the internet in the United States of America is civil. It is respectful. Now, where you're going to have the most animosity is on political blogs, political videos. That's where it's going to be most. But the thing is, most of the internet is not politics. And if you go on so many venues, if you're talking about, I like Scottish Terriers, and so I'm part of this group, or I have this channel, or there's so many do-it-yourself videos, or women over 60 who like to run. The vast majority is not dealing with politics, and the vast majority you have perfectly fine civil discourse. And even on these political videos and political posts, when you look at the comments, you have a lot of people with well thought out political opinions. You have some arguments going back and forth where each side is really presenting their position well. And then you have the great sense of humor. How many times have we busted out laughing based on what somebody posted? And a lot of times we go to a video, nobody's really interested in actually seeing the video. They're just going there for the comment section. The vast majority of comments are civil because they're being made by the United States citizens. And the vast majority of the United States citizens are civil. Now, yeah, you're going to have some trolls, but you also have this self-governance. You have this community where we can flag certain posts, or if we're the owner of channels, then we can, as admins, we can delete them. So it's not an issue. So once again, the premise is not only is it not true, but it's very insulting, because it's basically saying the internet in the United States of America, the comment sections are a complete disaster. That would basically mean that United States citizens are a disaster and are nothing but hateful and are nothing but misinformation, and they're like children and they need some type of big brother or adult to tell them what to post and how to post it. So that's how we begin. We begin saying that the sky's falling, everything's on fire, but don't worry, there's a solution. Germany. Oh, Germany has a wonderful solution. A false premise, a false problem, and now here comes the way to resolve it.
In the United States, most of what anyone says, sends, or streams online, even if it's hate-filled or toxic, is protected by the First Amendment as free speech. But Germany is trying to bring some civility to the World Wide Web.
Germany is trying to bring some civility to the World Wide Web. Germany, the government of Germany is going to bring order. A ruling class promising to bring order. Does that sound familiar? Isn't that something we've kind of heard before?
By policing it in a way most Americans could never imagine. In an effort, it says, to protect discourse, German authorities have started prosecuting online trolls. Inside, 6 armed officers searched a suspect's home, then seized his laptop and cell phone. Prosecutors say those electronics may have been used to commit a crime. The crime, posting a racist cartoon online.
If the post is online, why do they have to take the physical devices? And say this person, they needed that laptop and their cell phone for their job. You just took away their livelihood. You just took away their means of supporting themselves and supporting their family. And they don't show what this so-called racist cartoon was. But let's say it was. Why not leave it to the online community? Obviously, that's against the guidance of these platforms. of these platforms to post something like that. So why don't you leave it for somebody to flag or for an admin to delete? Why does the government have to be involved? Now, if somebody says, I know where you live at so, and I'm going to come over and I'm going to harm you and your family, well, then you have to call the police. Then you have to get the government involved with something that's a direct threat. But a so-called racist cartoon, 6 armed people, and then possibly taking away their means of supporting their family, that is draconian. That is sick.
We are here with crimes of talking, posting on internet, and the people are surprised that this is really illegal to post these kind of words.
They don't think it was illegal.
No, they don't think it was illegal. And they say, no, that's my free speech. And we say, no, yeah, free speech as well, but it is also has its limits.
Yeah, free speech has its limits. You're not free to directly threaten somebody. But the thing about limits, you want them to be few and you want them to be specific so somebody exactly knows if they're breaking the law with their speech. But when you have things that are vague, like so-called hate speech, or in a bit they're going to talk about how insulting somebody is against the law, then you have something that's completely vague that once again can be used politically to go after people on a certain side of the political spectrum and not the other side. That just opens the door for abuse.
Interpreting those limits is part of the job for Dr. Matthias Fink, Svenja Meininghaus,
who the hell
and
are these
Frank
people to
Michael
interpret the
Lau, a
limits?
few of the state prosecutors tasked with policing Germany's robust hate speech laws online. After its darkest chapter, Germany strengthened its speech laws.
So they're going to bring up Nazi Germany. Okay, let's talk about Nazi Germany. Let's talk about Adolf Hitler when he became chancellor and he took power. The first thing Adolf Hitler did was ban free speech. The first thing he did. So these people are carrying on the first thing that Adolf Hitler enacted. That's what these people are doing.
Is it a crime to insult somebody in public?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
And it's a crime to insult them online as well?
Yes.
The fine could be even higher if you insult someone in the internet.
Why?
Because in internet, it stays there. If we are talking here face to face, you insult me, I insult you, okay, finish. But if you in the internet, if I insult you or a politician,
That sticks around forever.
yeah.
It doesn't stick around forever. That's a complete lie. Websites are shut down all the time. Emails are closed, deleted. Accounts are deleted. It happens all the time. I used to be a blogger for a blog associated with the Chicago Tribune called Chicago Now. That website was shut down. All those blogs you can't get to anymore. So them saying, oh, it's on the internet, it's forever, is a bunch of nonsense. And also, think about all the stuff on the internet that nobody reads. I mean, stuff from 10 years ago, 15 years ago, obscure crap. Who cares? And if I were to post right now, Ringo Starr is a jerk, which I would never do. I'm actually a big fan. But let's say I post something like that, and 2 people like it. Okay, and then the months and years go by. Who cares? This is ludicrous. And like Jordan Peterson says, in order to think, you have to risk being insulted. You have to risk being insulted in order to think. This is insult. And then what is an insult? Who determines that? People can get insulted by anything.
If somebody posts something that's not true, and then somebody else reposts it or likes it, are they committing a crime?
Yeah, in the case of reposting, it is a crime as well, because the reader can't distinguish whether you just invented this or just reposted it. That's the same for us.
And who determines what is true? The German press? The German press that says that Elon Musk made a Nazi salute? The German press that paints the political opposition of the ruling party as far right? So these people going around with 6 armed police officers knocking on doors, going into people's homes and stealing their cell phone and stealing their laptop. Well, how are they described? Oh, they're slightly left of center. But the opposition, oh, they're far right.
The punishment for breaking hate speech laws can include jail time for repeat offenders. But in most cases, a judge levies a stiff fine and sometimes keeps their devices.
Sometimes keeps their devices. So some judge, just to be a complete dirtbag, just steals somebody's personal items, their belongings, their personal belongings. They just don't get them back, just so some judge can be a scumbag.
How do people react when you take their phones from them?
They are shocked. It's a kind of
Look
punishment.
at them laughing. We took away their phones. A lot of times, that's somebody's means to support their families, and they're looking at each other laughing, like this is all some kind of joke.
If you lose your smartphone, it's even worse than the fine you have to pay.
Because your whole life is typically on your phone now.
The application of Germany's decades-old speech laws to the online world was accelerated after an assassination fueled by the internet sent shockwaves.
So they use a tragedy to take away your rights and liberties.
In 2019, so 4 years after he gave that speech, he was shot in his head and instantly dead. So that was one of the cases where we see that online hate can sometimes find a way into real.
They're trying to make this direct correlation between I'm sure, deep criticism against this guy. I'm not denying he got some hatred, but it's already illegal to directly threaten somebody. That's already illegal. So they're using this, saying, now you can't insult somebody. This is perverted.
Life and then hurt people.
After a man with links to neo-Nazis was arrested, Germany ramped up the creation of its online hate task forces.
This is a criminal offense. So
What does that say?
Kletterpark for Flüchtlinge.
So they're suggesting that the refugee children play in the electrical wires. Okay.
This case.
Okay, and once again, why does the government have to be involved? Because a post like that would be against the community standards of any of these social media companies. I've had my YouTube channel for over 15 years. 2 or 3 times I've had some kind of racist comment that I deleted as the admin. Once again, why does the government need to get involved with something that the community can take care of?
Grote complained about a tweet that called him a Pimmel, a German word for the male anatomy. That triggered a police raid and accusations of excessive censorship by the government.
So in Germany, you can't call a politician a dick.
As prosecutors explained to us, in Germany, it's okay to debate politics online, but it can be a crime to call anyone a Pimmel, even a politician.
So it sounds like you're saying it's okay to criticize a politician's policy, but not to say, I think you're a jerk and an idiot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Comments like "you're a son of a bitch," excuse me for using, but these words has nothing to do with political discussions or a contribution
So what?
to a discussion.
The criticism that, this feels like the surveillance that Germany conducted 80 years ago. How do you respond to that?
There is no surveillance.
Josephine Ballon is a CEO of Hate Aid, a Berlin-based human rights organization that supports victims of online violence. In the United States, a lot of people look at this and say this is restricting free.
What do you mean online violence? There is no violence that's online. Violent would mean a physical assault, not being called names on some platform. What do you mean online violence?
Free speech, it's a threat to democracy.
Free speech needs boundaries. And in the case of Germany, these boundaries are part of our constitution. without boundaries, a very
Then that's sick. If they're part of your Constitution, when the first thing that Adolf Hitler did was ban free speech, and now these things are still part of your Constitution, then it doesn't seem like you've learned anything.
small group of people can rely on endless freedom to say anything that they want, while everyone else is scared and intimidated.
And your fear is that if people are freely attacked online, that they'll withdraw from the discussion.
This is not only a fear, it's already taking place. Already half of the internet users in Germany are afraid to express their political opinion, and they rarely participate in public debates online anymore.
Now, why do you think this is? This has to be the most naive woman on earth. She's talking about how Germans don't engage in any kind of political discussions anymore. And she thinks the reason for that is because they're going to get criticized or they're going to get hate or so-called internet violence. How naive can you be? The reason they're not posting anything is because they don't want police coming on their door, coming into their house, and taking their cell phone and laptop. They're terrified. They're terrified of the damn government. They're not terrified of anything anybody might tell them or say to them in a comment section.
Kunost asked Meta to delete all the false quotes attributed to her worldwide.
And they were astonished. What? We cannot do it. They said just by software, the software is not able to deal with all this. And we have to get a lot of new employees. And I said, yes, it's my personal right. It's my reputation.
Unbelievable.
Kunost sued Facebook.
Let the community take care of it. Facebook should not be responsible. They're a communication platform. Decades ago, in the United States of America, we had one phone company, Ma Bell. Ma Bell was not responsible for what anybody said on the telephone. They weren't responsible. They have a communication infrastructure that people use. Social media is supposed to be the same way. In fact, in the United States, they are guaranteed protections because they are not a publisher. They are just a communication platform. So they should not be directly responsible for anything that anybody posts. And once again, you have community guidelines. You have the ability to flag posts. Now you have on Twitter, community notes on certain things people post that other people think is disinformation. So holding these companies accountable for how people use their communication platform, it's like, do you hold Verizon Wireless accountable for things that people might say to each other that have Verizon? It's absurd.
Facebook and won. Last year, in a landmark case, a German court ruled Meta had to remove all the fake quotes attributed to her. Meta is appealing.
This court said in case of...
They can't just have it flagged with the real information, and people commenting can't say, well, actually this is false. It can't be handled that way.
Public servants, which have public offices and jobs, it's public interest that their personal rights are protected, because otherwise no one would go for these jobs. That would harm democracy.
BS.
After all this, are you seeing less hateful?
If people in politics were completely banned from criticism, nobody would be in politics? That's what she's arguing? Absolute nonsense.
Comments now on your social media feeds.
Yes, there are less hateful comments. And there was one
There's less comments, period.
tweet which says, don't say that to her, she will take you to court.
You might sue them.
I might sue them.
Last year,
And obviously, defamation of character, you can take to court.
European Union implemented a new law that requires social media companies to stop the spread of harmful content online in Europe or face millions of dollars in fines.
This is just a way to extort large American technology companies. That's all this is.
The European Commission is currently investigating whether Elon Musk's social media company X has breached the EU digital content law. Musk, who has been criticized for using X to promote Germany's far-right party ahead of next week's election.
Oh, they're able to call them far-right. Interesting.
Accused the EU of censorship and hating democracy. But in Lower Saxony, prosecutors argue they are protecting democracy and discourse by introducing a touch of German order to the unruly worldwide web.
A touch of German order.
I would say yes, because what's the option? The option is to say we don't do anything. No.
Yes.
Well, we are prosecutors.
You're
if
worthless.
we see a crime, we want.
So there you have it. 60 minutes. No pushback. In fact, the reporter seems kind of giddy. And a lot of those interviews just yoking it up and just like, oh, wow, this is great. You're bringing order to the internet. Absolutely disgusting. Once again, the censorship leads to hypocrisy. It leads to corruption. It also leads to weak leaders because remember when J.D. Vance said, you're really not sharing our values, and a European leader just broke down and started crying? So that's what happens when these politicians don't get any criticism. They become weak, and then they start bawling, and then people actually started applauding this guy in front of the mic, a grown-ass man crying. This was just such a pathetic segment by 60 Minutes, but we're in trouble because if people don't start really understanding the value of individual rights and liberty, they will lose them. They will throw out something that's valuable, and then it'll be too late. Anyway, that's what I got. Thanks for watching. Until next time.
Cisco, do we have to leave all our good friends now? Only until next time, Pancho. Adios, amigos.